Are you wanting to get started with course creation in 2021? Well, I'm so excited for you. I've been teaching online for the last 3 years and I cannot wait to share my top tools, tricks and hacks for teaching online and everything I've learned from being on a variety of different online learning platforms. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Megs and every week I release tech tutorials helping you do digital better. So I've been working a lot in Notion and I'll link to my video about that up above, but basically it allows you to work on multiple projects seamlessly and at the same time. So what I do is literally create a Kanban view of the course that I'm creating and all the various modules. And where I was previously working just on PowerPoint and creating the modules sequentially, I'm now able to dip my toe in the water depending on the mood that I'm in that day or what I feel like working on. So it doesn't mean that you then have to actually complete everything fully. It's all kind of in this virtual world that allows you to revisit it when you read something interesting. So the reality is that most of us are going to be creating online courses part-time, which means that it's probably going to take you anywhere between 3 weeks and 4 weeks to get something up. But the beauty of this is during those 3 and 4 weeks, you're going to be researching, reading things, thinking of anecdotes from your own experience in terms of the topic that you're teaching. And you're going to want to be layering those on all the time. So what I do love about Notion is when I think of something that I want to add to a module that I've not yet shot, I'll literally just hop on the mobile app and then add it there. So Ali Abdal, who's one of my favorite YouTubers, he talks about the heavy lift or the slow burn. So you want to be doing a slow burn when it comes to online course creation. It's very overwhelming, and to try and heavy lift something like that in a weekend is honestly going to put your back out. My top tip number 2 is Facebook groups. So this is such an underutilized resource, and honestly I think it's because a lot of people feel like Facebook is dying. It's the platform that everyone's parents are on, you know, definitely not the TikTok or the cool kid on the block, but certainly it has really established communities around very specific niches, and that is exactly what you want when it comes to online course creation. So you want to unpack the mind of your avatar if you've gone that far in terms of thinking of who your ideal audience is, but you basically want to understand what are their FAQs, what are some of their biggest challenges, and really start to mold your mind into thinking, okay, maybe I'm taking some things for granted because I've been doing something for a particular period of time. You want to get into that beginner mindset and you really want to unpack what people are battling with. So I'll give you guys an example. So I'm a female working in advertising and I absolutely love online course creation, right? So I'm part of Future Females, which is an amazing Facebook group and an amazing Facebook page all about female entrepreneurship around the world. I find that to be hugely kind of inspiring, reading other people's success stories, and I often post my videos there too. Secondly, the advertising portion, there is a Facebook group in South Africa called The Resource, which is where a lot of people post job ads and just questions around maybe they're battling to export something off their MacBook, because obviously everyone uses a MacBook in advertising. Anything like that, there's really constructive and helpful banter on that group. And then finally, from an online course creation perspective, I will link to that group down below, but it's also really cool, Instructor HQ. A lot of people talking about how to create courses on Udemy, how to create courses on Skillshare. So of course, I love posting my videos in there, get a great response, and then even recently ran about 4 polls trying to understand what is it about course creation that people find so scary and how can my YouTube videos better serve that need. My number 3 top tip is making your intro count. So although we don't all have high production quality videos and lots of expensive camera gear, what is really important to get right is that intro video. So this was probably my biggest thing that I underplayed initially. I wasn't really sure how one goes about promoting the course. So when it came to something like Skillshare, which I love teaching on, that was a case of actually, let me dive headfirst into this and really put a lot of thought into that intro, because at the end of the day, that's the hook that's going to get someone to watch your course. In the case of Udemy, it's even more important because you're actually having someone enter their payment details at the end of watching that little video. So even if the rest of your course is maybe a little bit more talking head or subdued or screenshot walkthroughs, that's okay. I think people are expecting that from an online course, but certainly you need to bring your energy, your personality, functionality, and definitely outline the benefits that someone's going to actually have from doing your course. Because remember, time is so precious. We're living in an attention economy, and if you can't hook the person once off, they're not going to take your course. My fourth tip is pick a platform. So I really thought that picking a platform was going to be an afterthought when it came to online course creation. But honestly, it is such a huge part of understanding the nuances and subtleties of a marketplace or of a platform before you even get started. Skillshare is intended for creative people. It's typically much shorter format content, so between 20 minutes and 60 minutes, and it really is hands-on. So you'll see people illustrating in Procreate, you'll see them sketching, overhead cameras, that sort of thing. That is what does well on the Skillshare platform. In addition to that, it is project-based. So you cannot have a project as an afterthought at the end of your course. It needs to be in the kind of bedrock of the course itself. Udemy, on the other hand, because people are not paying a fixed fee once a month, they're actually buying your course. It means that you even more so have to prove the value of your course, which typically ends in the courses being really, really long, because people want to share the fact that they are the thought leader, they are the expert, so they'll give you a 16-hour course. Whether or not that's what consumers want, I'm not too sure, but certainly that is an approach that people take. And so if you're deciding between Udemy and Skillshare, maybe you want to teach a development course about Python, it's probably likely that you're going to have to do a longer course because it's a detailed topic, and you're probably going to want to do it on Udemy and not Skillshare. But this is just two examples. There are so many teaching platforms out there. So I've tried Skillshare, Udemy, and Teachable, but the other ones that spring to mind are Thinkific and Podia, and they all have their own pros and cons. So definitely do your own research. The biggest marketplace is Udemy, however it is highly competitive. Skillshare is also quite a big marketplace, but then some of the other ones, you are actually responsible for getting 100% of the traffic to that page. So if you don't, for example, have an audience like I didn't have when I started, it might not be the platform for you. And that doesn't mean that your content's not good, it just means that you don't have the money to send people to that website, or arguably the mailing list. So those are the sorts of things you want to bear in mind. My fifth top tip comes into play when you're building your slide decks. Now, not everyone teaches with slides, but I find that it's helpful to keep to the point and not to ramble. However, that being said, I do always open with a talking head shot like what you guys are watching now, and I then put my video in the bottom left-hand corner, which actually helps people to follow along with me and follow along with the slides. However, one thing that you obviously want to bear in mind is when you're creating your slides, you don't want anything in that corner. So you need to be sure when you structure the slides themselves how you're going to present them at the end of the day. But each to their own. I mean, some people love using a variety of different tools, like for example, Loom is a great one that actually allows you to press pause, and then it's going to subtract all of that editing work at the back end. So you're just going to pause before you look at your notes and do whatever. With me, I leave the camera rolling and then have 100 ums and ahs and bloopers, but that works for me. Other people would prefer to use something like Loom, where they're actually able to pause on their computer and then drink a cup of tea in the meantime before they resume with their next module. Another learning was I really like having a final slide at the end of each module telling people what is coming next. So not only is this likely to keep the student more engaged because they know what to expect, but they're probably likely to look forward to whatever it is in your next module too. So they're not going to maybe get distracted and start checking their phone. Something that is hotly contested is point number 6, and that is batching your content. So a lot of people feel like shooting 3 to 5 videos back to back is going to be so exhausting and you just never make it through. But can you imagine cleaning your room 5 times, putting on makeup 5 times, and finding a cute outfit 5 times? It can be really time consuming to break up your filming across multiple days, so almost always it makes more sense and it's more efficient to do your filming in batches. When it comes to filming, you do not need the latest equipment, but what you do need is a good microphone. So I, at the beginning, just used my iPhone in voice record mode. I then subsequently got a Rode VideoMic, which I will link to. And then in today's video, I'm actually trying out something new, and that's a Boya lavalier microphone. So it comes in a little pouch like this, and it only set me back 250 Rand on Takealot. but I'm recording on 2 mics so I can compare and see what the quality of this one is like. If I think it's a good fit for online instructors, I will be sure to mention that down below so that you guys know whether maybe this is something that you're going to want to buy before your weekend of filming. You also don't want to complicate things for yourself when it comes to filming. So initially I used to film with a teleprompter app on my phone because I was so nervous that I was going to fumble my words. But if anything, it just made me a little bit distracted and probably looked a bit catatonic, if I'm honest. So now I like to have all of my talking points in Notion, but really I'm just talking off the cuff. So my second last tip is all about editing. This is also a really scary step in the process when you're first getting started, but it really needn't be. So I actually started with a program called Wondershare Filmora. I then moved on to Adobe Premier Pro. I then moved on to iMovie. I'm still on iMovie, but I do sometimes do color grading on Premiere Pro. So why I love iMovie and why it would be the first thing that I would recommend to beginners is I really feel like it doesn't complicate the process. It really is just exactly what you need and nothing more. And I think sometimes its constraints make you be a little bit more creative. Like for example, I use Canva for a lot of my overlays, and I've really found a lot of workarounds using iMovie. If you do have the money to invest in paid for platforms, then obviously that's great. But if you're wanting to do it on a budget, then for Mac, I would suggest iMovie, and for a normal computer, I would suggest DaVinci Resolve. In my poll on Instructor HQ, I asked some questions, as I've mentioned, around what people were confused about when it came to online course creation, and someone had a great point around whether or not to use music. So I've dabbled in using bedding tracks in terms of both YouTube, Skillshare and Udemy, but really on hindsight, when I look back at some of the courses or YouTube videos that do have it, it's honestly often just more distracting than what it's bringing value. So I would suggest having a very short kind of backing track maybe for your intro, and then what I do is a jingle and then stop with sound completely, because I think someone who's watching something for a prolonged period of time is going to get quite agitated by backing tracks. Something else that was asked that I also thought was really cool was sound effects. So I'm going to say that sound effects are probably not the best idea when it comes to online courses, unless it's like a subtle swoosh sound when you do a kind of slide left, slide right. So what I would suggest doing instead of doing sound effects or music is rather focusing on jump cuts that bring the person closer to you when you're making a really important point, and then maybe also cutting slightly to the side when, for example, there's a phone next to you. So just making sure that the way that you're sitting suits the format of the video, and also if you're showing something personal, you might want to create a more zoomed in effect at times. So rather do that than crazy sound effects or music. So my last point is around professionalism and not perfectionism. So I know I'm the worst culprit of this. I want everything to be perfect, and then I never do it. So one of my other favorite YouTubers, Lavender, she always says done is better than perfect, and honestly I couldn't agree with her more. I think of it a little bit more as an MVP. I think it's more important to get something up, see the traction, see the feedback from students, because it's very unlikely that you're only going to do one version of a course. For example, with my Introduction to Social Media Marketing course, I always think of ways that I can improve upon it, and I actually want to reshoot the whole thing, add more resources and just a whole lot more love into it. So now that I have a working proof of concept, I know that it's something that people want to see. It's really going to be something that I'm going to invest a lot of time into in 2021. So that is it for today's video. I really hope it was helpful. Please let me know if there was something that resonated with you by popping the timestamp in the comments below, or just saying hi. Either way, if you're not yet subscribed, please do consider subscribing. I love helping online course creators so that we can all do digital better. I cannot wait to see you guys next time. I can help you out. I can help you out. I can help